Good day, everybody. This is Lieutenant Commander Lonnie McHugh, and I will be your instructor for topic 4.14, Safekeeping Deposits. I'm just going to go ahead and share the presentation on the screen so you all can see it and follow. All right, like I said, tonight's topic is 4.14, Safe Deposits. And we briefly touched on these. As a recap, safekeeping deposits are you, the dispersing officer or assigned custodian, acting as a safety deposit box, like at a bank. So individuals will bring you their valuables and you will store them in your safe or designated keeping area. Again, it's just like a safety deposit box at a bank. Our enabling objective is demonstrate the procedures for deposit and withdrawal of safekeeping deposits using the DoD FMR Volume 5. And our references, of course, are the Volume 5 and the P485. And again, that's going to be the 480 Chapter 10, and the Volume 5 can be found online. Our discussion points are going to be the safekeeping deposit, reasons of those safekeeping deposits, types of deposits you're allowed to take, safekeeping deposit records, storage of deposits, withdrawal procedures, and the balancing requirement. Roll into summary and review. All right, safekeeping deposits are for funds or valuables held in the dispersing officer's safe. So again, people, your members, your crew, your soldiers, they're going to bring you cash or valuables, and they're going to have them stored in your safe or vault. These are not part of your public funds. So your dispersing operation, you have an allowed amount of money that you're allowed to have. That's put on your 2657. You monitor those funds very closely, and you are accountable to the U.S. Treasury for those. That is not included in this. These funds are separate from those. So again, looking back like a bank, when somebody puts their whatever they put in their safety deposit box, the bank doesn't have visibility of that, and they do not, that's not their money. So again, it doesn't go on the 2657. These are not the Treasury's funds. Restrictions. So when we talked about setting up the dispersing office, we talked about how you and the commanding officer will get together and you'll have a policy, and that policy will be put out to everybody on the ship. So this is part of that, and your safekeeping deposits will have a section in that dispersing policy. And so the commanding officer can set limits on time, how long somebody can have something deposited with you, or how often, or how quickly they can withdraw those funds. The place, so is it going to be in your safe? Do you have multiple safes? Is there a vault specific for this, or do you have another location where you will store these things? And then again, frequency of deposits and withdrawals. You must have this in your local instruction to be able to say yes or no to things. Again, in the DoD FMR Volume 5, there is not a lot of guidance on safekeeping deposits other than how often they must be audited. So it is very much up to you and the commanding officer on how you want to run this show. All right, discussion point number 2, types of deposits. Oh, actually, number 3. So you can't deposit just anything in your service members, your soldiers. They can't deposit just anything. It can't be sentimental stuff. It has to be something of intrinsic value. So it can be cash. It can be negotiable instruments. So those traveler's checks that we talked about in class, the money orders, bonds are definitely something that can go on there. And it says intrinsic value. So we're talking rings, jewelry, watches, but anything of real value. And that can be a little bit of a gray area when you start getting into collectibles, etc. but items having only sentimental value will not be accepted. Again, this is a gray area, and you're going to have to work through that with you and the service member and your commanding officer. All right, so how do we record this safety deposit box transaction, your safekeeping? So you're going to fill out a form, imagine that, and it is DD form 2674. And so you and the service member that is making that deposit, you as the dispersing officer, will fill out this form together. And you'll give the original to the customer, that is their receipt. They will keep that with them. Make sure you express to them that they need to keep it and they need to bring it back. Then you have your copy, and that's going to be in your records showing everything that was deposited, and it'll have your signature and the signature of the depositor. So that service member that brought you that diamond ring, they will be filling that out. Deposits are assigned in sequential order, starting with 1, and they continue on. This isn't an annual number. This is over all time. Right, so in addition to the 2674, you have a log that you must file. And on that log, you're going to have the deposit number. You're going to have the date that the deposit or withdrawal was done. Well, the deposit withdrawal will come later. The amount and amount in words. So just like a check, you're going to have $474 spelled out in numbers and then spelled out in letters. Then you're going to have the dispersing officer's signature or whoever the accountable official is. So just to clarify, if you do not have a dispersing operation, the officer in charge, the commanding officer, can designate someone with the appropriate storage facilities to be accountable for these and be your safekeeping custodian. So with the deposit, your service member is going to keep the original 2674, and then you will keep a copy in with your records and with the deposit. All right, moving on to discussion point 5, storage of deposits. So you must have room available in your safe. So if it's packed full of cash and checks and all those other things that you're required to have in the safe and you don't have any room, you can't take it. Again, the item must have intrinsic value, so it can't be a postcard from a loved one. You're going to store each deposit in a sealed envelope identified by the deposit number, name of depositor, and amount or description of item. And so you're going to have a lot of different envelope types, but the largest one you're typically going to have is the 8.5 by 11 large yellow mailer. And so everything you take should fit within that. Don't commingle your funds. So you have your government money that you are accountable to the U.S. Treasury for, and then you're getting these safekeeping funds. These are 2 separate pots. So your safekeeping funds don't ever go on your 2657, and your dispersing funds always are on your 2657. Keep them separate. Another option, if you have a lot of cash that you're receiving from members, you can create a bank account and you can deposit funds in there and have checks and be able to write checks to those. A reason that you might have to do that is maybe you have a substantial amount of service members that are not bankable. They have bad credit history, etc. And maybe you act as a bank, or maybe there aren't sufficient local resources for them to go to. All right, so the service member, they brought you all this, they brought you cash, and you as a dispersing officer and you and the service member came together, you filled out this 2674. The service member kept the original. You kept a copy in your records. So both of you all have a version of this 2674. That service member to come and be able to do a withdrawal, they need to bring that original 2674. The dispersing officer or whoever the accountable person is for the safekeeping deposits verifies their identity. The member signs your record, the dispersing officer's record, acknowledging receipt of deposit. So they'll have to sign your log. They'll fill out the 2674. Member's receipt is destroyed. So you take their 2674, you destroy it, but you keep your original. And this is to help prevent people coming back and taking money out multiple times. Again, you as a dispersing officer, keep the retained copy. And then this note at the bottom. A depositor must withdraw the entire deposit. So if Seaman Timmy came to us and Seaman Timmy, he gave us $100 and he wanted to put it in his safekeeping deposit. So he does that. That's fine. Fill out the 2664, fill out the logs. Seaman Timmy comes back and he has his receipt. He wants to withdraw $50. Can't do that. So Seaman Timmy must withdraw the full 100 that he deposited. But unless there's something in your commands and instructions saying there's amount of time or wait period between another deposit, Seaman Timmy could just go turn around and deposit that additional $50. Moving on to discussion point 7, balancing requirement. Even though this isn't part of your accountability, your money that you owe the U.S. Treasury, you're still accountable for it. With that, in your end-of-month process, you have to go through and you have to inventory these, audit, make sure everything's there, and then you fill out your safekeeping deposit record. And you will use the verbatim quotes here. All safekeeping deposits, serial numbers X through X, so whatever deposits you have been balanced and verified on X date. Total cash deposits equal dollar amount. Now remember, these aren't all going to be cash, so they specifically want you to spell out cash, not the cash value. Your cash deposits and your other deposits are annotated separately in this. At the bottom of it, you'll print and sign as the custodian. Another balancing requirement that we'll talk about a little bit more in the future is the CVT, which is our cash verification team. Again, this is just an audit tool. It is a team of people assigned to come and audit your dispersing operation from inside your command. It's going to be made of the senior supply officer around, and then it will be some additional personnel that are appointed by the CEO. Again, they're just auditors, come through quarterly. All right, so to the knowledge check. What form is used for safekeeping deposits? That is DD Form 2674. When must dispersing officers balance safekeeping deposits? That's monthly, so that's when the dispersing officer will do it, and then the CVT will do it, cash verification team, once quarterly. Which of the following items can be accepted as a safekeeping deposit? Multiple choice. U.S. savings bond of $100. Yeah, it's a negotiable instrument. Gold watch with a value of $400. Yeah, so it's a jewelry item that can definitely be accepted. Rare coin purchased in Spain, value $2,500. And that can be as well. So it's D, all of the above. Right? In summary, we talked about safekeeping deposits. So that's our version of a safety deposit box. Restrictions on that, which are pretty much what you and the CEO have worked out. Talked about types of deposits. So it can't just be bubblegum wrappers. It needs to be something of intrinsic value. So that's negotiable instruments, cash, or jewelry, or jewels, etc. Safekeeping deposit records. So you have the 2674, and you have your safekeeping record log. Storage of deposits. You're going to keep everything in your safe. And if it can't fit in safe, you can't store it. Well, with the exception of if you're getting a lot of cash for safekeeping deposits, you can put it into a bank and get a bank account. Withdrawal procedures. So they have to keep that 2674. They bring that back to you, and you're able to identify who they are and then give them their safekeeping deposit then. And then you have to balance monthly whenever you're end of month closeout on your safekeeping deposits. And that concludes our summary review. I look forward to seeing your forum posts. Have a good evening out here.